the people side of business, the human side of business. In the 60s, it was introduced as a major consideration, major variable in the world of work, the people side, the psychology of work. Now, because of the four forces, we have to rethink the people side of work because the very nature of work is changing. So that is why this becomes a significant imperative for organizations going forward. So we need people experts, people who are specialists, who can help facilitate this changing nature of work in their organization.
Hey, Dr. Bob, how you doing today?
Good. How are you? How are you, Bill?
Great. I'm doing great. I always enjoy talking to you. We're like friends or brothers, aren't we?
Exactly. Brothers who haven't met each other.
Ever. It's crazy.
Ever.
So it's been fun writing this book that you started with this idea of a new world of work, and you asked me to join you and Robert Ramirez as well in writing about the things that you've seen are have changed. You've been in the workforce and HR and all that for how many years now?
52.
Oh, so you would you say you at least lived the old world of work? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
And you saw change is a scary thing for people, isn't it?
Exactly.
They don't
People
like
have
change.
a hard time dealing with change.
Why do you think that is?
Human beings want to have some predictability in their lives, We are creatures of routine, We feel secure with routine. And if the routine is changed, we feel insecure, and because we have to learn new things and do it the new way, etc. And that takes some time to get used to. So that transition period between the old and the new becomes always a challenge, right?
Yeah, and I would think people that have been in a company for a while, maybe advanced up to higher positions, they probably resist change more than those down toward the bottom of the organization.
Right. Because there's security in predictability, okay?
Yeah. So this idea of a new world of work is scary to a lot of people, right?
It's scary to different groups of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what is causing one of the main causes of this, the changed world of work, is digitization. Okay? Work is being digitized at an accelerating speed. So the younger generations are much more used to the challenges and the vagaries of the digital world. So they are more used to change in the digital world than people who are used to the old ways. In other words, bricks and mortar way of doing work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So we wrote this book, The New World of Work, People Leadership in the Digital Age. There you are, Dr. Bob, Bashker, D. Biswas, myself, and Dr. Robert Ramirez, to kind of lay out a case that the world of work has changed and that we need now more than ever, we need people leaders in this digital age. So you kind of led us right into that topic right away. So today, what I wanted to focus on our conversation is on the new world of work, the concept itself, kind of big picture, before we head out on the more specific parts of our book. So the new world of work, what is it? And so before we get into the new world of work, what is it that you would say is the world of work? When you say that phrase, the world of work, what's that mean?
Most of us humans have to do something that produces income for us, so that we can live our daily lives. So the world of work is the stuff we do on our daily day-to-day basis that generates income for us to sustain a hierarchy of needs, okay? Starting with physiological needs and then security needs and going up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the world of work is that part of our daily lives that we devote to earning a living, to put it in simple terms.
Yeah, it's a huge part of our lives. The people talk about work-life balance. So we have the
Exactly.
life side and then the work side, right? That work side is everything we do. Traditionally, in the old world of work, we're talking about that includes commuting to work. That includes how you were supervised, your time card. All those different things are part of the world of work.
So we basically, to make a clear distinction, we human beings, we work. All our waking hours, we work. We work for economic benefit, and we work for non-economic benefit. Okay? So this world of work we are talking about in our book is our daily work lives that produces economic benefit for us.
Gotcha. And so we talk about the old world of work. When do you think the new world of work started to come about? When did you start seeing changes in your life about the new world of work?
With the advent of the personal computer, I would think is a threshold, a tipping point for this change. With I would say in the early 80s.
Yeah.
If you want me to pin it down, I would think the world of work started changing when the IBM PC first came out. Okay.
Hmm.
That was in the early 80s. And computing became ubiquitous. Before computing was mass scale data processing was in the bailiwick of engineers, scientists, advanced professionals, etc. But with the advent of the personal computer, and specifically the IBM PC, and then Apple, the early versions of Apple, I can't even remember the names of the early
Yeah.
versions of Apple. But that made computation ubiquitous, available to everybody, anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, I
And that,
remember I was a kid in the early 80s. Uh, you and I are from a different generation. I'm in the Gen X category. You're in the baby boomer generation. But when I was a little kid, we had a Tandy computer that we plugged into our TV, and I could make it say my name repeatedly. That was kind of fun for me. And then I remember in junior high, my friend's parents had a Apple IIe computer, and in sixth grade at school, they had like an old army barracks where they put a bunch of computers, and we could play Oregon Trail. And I just remember playing with those computers going, it'd be really neat is if I could make money playing on a computer, being on a computer. And here we are, right? We, as DeVry professors in COVID, we completely made our living on a computer. So I got my wish come true in a very bad way.
so to answer your basic question, I think the tipping point was the advent of the personal computer
Gotcha.
for the changing nature of work.
Yeah, and so in our book, in the preface, you wrote, currently, one can say that there are four forces of change that seem to be ushering in seismic change to the future of work and thus human relations and human capital management in the workplace. That's a big sentence. We'll unpack that later. But today we're going to focus on the new world of work. These four forces are digitization, like you mentioned, new public health crises, environmental sustainability, and demographic changes leading to creative talent management. So you kind of touched on digitization already. Anything else on that bullet point?
The digitization is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, changing the world of work. It is affecting every part of our life, and we ain't seen anything yet. With the advent of metaverse, the way our digital lives are going to merge with our physical lives in a way that humankind has never seen before. So one can say without equivocation that digitization has caused the world of work to change dramatically. It is the conduit through which the way we work, the way we spend our work life is completely altered.
Yeah, I completely
That's why
agree.
it is the primary 800-pound gorilla of change.
Yeah, and I think I've seen in my work life automation being a big thing. That's part of digitization. Is this idea that the things I used to do that I got paid by the hour to do are now done automatically by a machine. That could be scary for older people who have that security and they derive their power by being able to do those tasks. But it also could be difficult for teenagers entering the workforce where this idea of automation could take jobs.
We haven't, as I said before, we haven't seen anything as yet. There's a masses of changes that lies ahead in our daily lives and especially in our work lives with the exponential growth of digitization in the workplace.
Yeah.
The technology is changing by leaps and bounds.
We've also seen with COVID-19 the massive disruption that was a public health crisis. But here in our book, we talk about crises. Have you seen prior to COVID-19 a public health crisis that disrupted work?
Public, not to this extent. It is the COVID-19 pathogen. It's now becoming endemic, as you know, which means that it's going to carry on with us, be part of our lives, and therefore cause major change in the way we work. That will cause a need to look at work differently and to live with this pathogen forever going forward. So that is the second and another very important force for change. For example, COVID-19 forced us to work from home more so than ever before. That is dramatic change in the way we work, right? Caused by an international public health crisis.
And I think there used to be people at work in the campus or in the office that were germaphobes, right? And we made fun of those people. Why are you always washing your hands? Why are you using hand sanitizer? And now they're the smart ones. They're the ones that can help us understand how to keep our germs to ourselves. But it seems like with the remote work and then coming back to the office, the need for there's some new opportunities there. Also, we've seen a shift from environmental sustainability. There's been a green movement before. There's been people that are very environmentally conscious, but we're seeing more and more businesses. It's no longer an option to be environmentally sustainable. It's a requirement. And how have you seen that kind of change?
As I tell my students, our world, environmental sustainability is a problem humanity has to face because it's an existential threat that you cannot avoid it. The way I dramatically explain this, the island of Mauritius, which is an island in the east, in the Indian Ocean, in the west of India. The few years ago, the newly formed president, held his first cabinet meeting underwater in scuba gear. All the ministers went underwater. He was highlighting to the world that the problem of the rising seas is so huge that that whole island will be underwater pretty soon, if it's not already. So there needs to be massive migration of people, and that will affect the changing nature of work. But the pathogen problem, okay, has been aggravated by massive changes in the world's population. We are reaching almost 9 billion people. I show my students the world clock, that is a presentation of the US Census Bureau, that is a world clock ticking away. Every second babies are being born, and the world population is increasing. And then the world population is increasing, but increasingly mobile also, moving around all over the place. National borders are not being able to control people's in and out, okay, across the whole world. And therefore people are moving by any means, by airplanes, by trains, by automobiles or trucks or whatever, across the whole world. And along with it, the pathogens are moving along with the transitory nature of humankind these days, creating a serious continued serious world health crises, and therefore causing the nature of work to change.
Yeah, and
that's the second factor.
I wrote the chapter on green HR, and that environmental sustainability used to be seen as a cost. It was something that cost you money to go green. But now we're seeing that it can be profitable. It can attract a great workforce and so on. So there's some opportunity in going towards an environmental sustainability model as well. The fourth one is demographic changes. This is kind of my area of expertise here. We've seen this massive change in the type of people that work. We have, here in America especially, we have ethnicities and cultures and religions from all over the world. Where through the digitization that you mentioned earlier, we also have a global workforce. We can have a workforce that's spread all throughout the globe. And we also have now, because baby boomers are one of the first generations to live longer and work longer, we have 4 generations working side by side in the workforce. And so that's a major shift that is making companies look at how to adjust to this new world as well. What do you see in terms of demographic changes?
Ethnic diversity is existing across the whole world, okay? And that's because of the exponential growth in world population and the uncontrolled migration. It's almost impossible to create laws and rules to control migration because the numbers of people across the whole world has increased so much. People are moving to wherever they get economic benefit, and it's hard to stop this type of forced migration across the world. And because of this migration and movement of people around the whole world for the purpose of economic benefit, mainly, these demographic changes are causing is the fourth force of change in the new world of work.
Yeah, and I think both you and I and Robert as well are optimistic people. We're entrepreneurial mindset. We see these environmental changes, these 4 forces, And instead of be upset about it, we are looking for ways to harness that power. Maybe we have this little icon, a picture of a breeze, a wind. Instead of fighting the wind, you want to go with the wind and find the opportunities that these changes bring on. And so there's plenty of opportunities for businesses to engage in the world of work. Obviously, digitization for a business, automate everything you can. It's a great way to increase your productivity, um, because machines can be more consistent than people. There's lots to people that are difficult. So the more you can bring in the power of machine learning, digitization, those things, I think your business is going to be better off. Do you see other opportunities for businesses for digitization?
The opportunities will arise out of organizations and companies and various employing organizations, as you say, to go with the wind, because these forces of change are happening whether we like it or not. Okay? So the best thing and the purpose of our book is to provide guidelines or new thinking of how we ride with the wind, okay? The winds of change. That's the purpose of the book. And we have we laid out very specific terms of what the opportunities are to adapt to the new ways of working, okay? Which is caused by these four forces, okay?
Yep.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that was good. And you see here on the screen the different opportunities businesses have because of COVID and things like that. Remote tools have gotten better. Remote work is something that is an opportunity that is more workplaces are more open to. We're creating healthier workplaces. There's a better sense of autonomy. In environmental sustainability, we're seeing that people want that, and so businesses have the opportunity to put those things in. And then the demographic changes. How do we harness that power, increase the collaboration, and use those remote tools? And for workers,
Bill, if you go back to the previous slide to dramatize this point, the new public health, why change, and we have to ride the wave of change. The purpose of this book. Let me give you a specific example. Because of the COVID crisis and the concern for infectious diseases in the workplace, what a change that has been ushered in, that's one of those riding the wave issues. Office layouts are being really being given a rethink big time. How you lay out offices, the placement of desks, the flow of traffic on the hallways. All of these things are being part of the change process that is taking place in how we work. It's just simple fact where the cubicles are, where the desks are, where the receptionist desk will be. Will there be a plexiglass in front of the receptionist desk? All of these have been caused by this second force that we talked about. And that is why we are writing this book, because our work life has to go through a major rethink here. Put the plexiglass in front of our desk. That's completely new way of the working, right?
Yeah,
have a screen in front of us.
While also emphasizing the human element, right? The people connection. Because I know for me, when I started using self-checkout at the grocery store, that kind of took away that personal interaction I had with the person. When I started using Netflix instead of going to Blockbuster, I no longer talk to the person to rent my movies. And with COVID, the plexiglass has been a barrier to human interaction. And we know that those are going to exist still. So we have to,
as
Bill, leaders.
Wherever I go, wherever I go, the bank, to you name it, if you want to any checkout counter, anything, they all have plexiglass now,
Yeah.
everywhere. It's a new way of working.
And my daughter just recently at their school they dropped the mask mandate, and so my daughter was concerned now because with the mask on, she was able to hide the faces she was making at people, the judgmental faces she was making because she had a mask on. And so now she has to do her makeup again to go to school and watch what faces she makes because people can see her face. Um, we in some places we still have and may always have people that wear masks, and so we have to find ways to still touch people, keep that human element alive in a world of plexiglass, right?
Yeah. Just to highlight this and give it a real humanity to it, in one of the meetings I was in of all the chief financial officers, they were talking about rethinking the workplace. And one person was saying in their workplace, they have a lot of hallways. Now they have rules. They've made placards, signs with rules. If you see Bill coming down the hallway, stop. Let him pass. Don't walk next to him. These guys, if you think about it, this is massive change. And we have to cope with this change. We have to think it through, internalize these changes because, face it, the world of work is changing.
Yeah. And for workers, a lot of our students, we've been talking about this book for the past year and a half as we've been writing it. Our students are highly interested in this book. I think they most of the time they tell me, "Oh man, tell me when I can buy a copy so I can give it to my boss." They're looking for opportunities for their bosses to understand the new world of work and how to help serve their workers. But for workers themselves, there's opportunities for them in this new world of work. Obviously, you mentioned earlier, the younger generations are more apt to adopt and ride the wind of change because they have that advantage. They have a lot less learning curve to get up to our speed. And so they welcome this digitization. They have more access to information. They know how to pull something up on their phones with no problem. And so there's some opportunities for younger people to become people leaders, to be the people that help their workers go through these changes.
Just anybody who's listening to this video, if you just research the changes that are forthcoming with the metaverse initiative, the word universe is being changed to metaverse, and that is really going to change the nature of work further. Change is going to be the only constant going forward. Continuous change is going to be the only constant going forward. That's why this book is so pertinent and so relevant right now, because we deal with all these change elements in the workplace.
And I think this offers new leadership growth opportunities for people that didn't exist before. People that are socially conscious, they now see their organization having the same value they have at home, so that they like that as well. So really the bottom line is that people are the key asset, I think was what we've been saying today. There's a lot of changing going on. There's a lot of forces of change that can be unsettling. But we know in the new world of work that people are the key. And so I think the best opportunity we have is to be people specialists. And you've seen that phrase before, people specialist, right? Where are you seeing that at?
Let me tell you and the audience something. In the 1960s, person I knew, Mr. Stan Herman, wrote a book called People Specialists. When in the 60s, for the first time, a big book came out called The Human Side of the Enterprise by Doug McGregor. And that was a seminal book that initiated or introduced psychology in the workplace. It had started in the 1940s with the Hawthorne studies, but when Doug McGregor's book, The Human Side of the Enterprise, came out, I have a 25th printing anniversary of that book, that really ushered in organizational behavior, psychology in the workplace in a big way. In addition, that brought in the soft side of the workplace, okay? The human side of the workplace. And Stan Herman wrote a book about the people specialists who deal with this new world. At that time, the new world of work, the human side of work, okay? And now we are faced with a new world again with these four forces. And the people specialists, the people who handle the human side of this new enterprise, of this digital and the enterprise that has come out of these four forces, need people leaders or people specialists who will guide us through this new world of work. That's the people specialist Bill is talking about. The new human relations experts that will guide enterprises, organizations, and individuals through this new world of work.
Yeah, and you even mentioned in the preface here, going back to that line, human capital management rather than human resources management. It could even be called people management in some cases, but people leadership, whatever those phrases are. But we've seen that shift in human resources from seeing people as a tool to be used or on that type of that they're seen as a tool rather than a person. And we've saw, like you said, the soft side of things to where now people are being much more valued.
I think the best way to explain this, is the people side of business, the human side of business. In the 60s, it was introduced as a major consideration, major variable in the world of work, the people side, the psychology of work. Now, because of the four forces, we have to rethink the people side of work because the very nature of work is changing. So that is why this becomes a significant imperative for organizations going forward. Right now, right at this very moment, the challenge that business leaders have is skills management, people management, talent shortages, the great resignation, all of these phenomena. This COVID-19 and these four forces has created the human beings who work to go back to their homes and do some deep thinking about their work life. And they are finding it is not very satisfactory because it is not, bosses are still trying to manage the old way when the four forces has created the nature of work to change. So we need people experts, people who are specialists, who can help facilitate this changing nature of work in their organizations. That's why the word people specialist. The other way to explain it, the word resource in its very nature is manage resources, which is reduce costs, reduce expenses. That's resource management. All of these words is an inside-out view of organizational effectiveness. Inside-out view. What we need is an outside-in view. It's The new nature of work, the four forces, the changing workplace needs us to look at from outside how to make people more effective from the external viewpoint, okay? Mhm. Instead of resource management, which is an internal out view, inside out view. That is the paradigm shift that we have to undertake.
Yeah, and going back to digitization, it's a very appealing thing to automate things, to do the tasks that are redundant, to have some machine do those things. And so the value of the workforce, the value of the human beings will be those that could understand humans, the people, and motivate them to do the work that machines can't do. And there will always be that opportunity. So thank you, Dr. Bob, for being with us today and all your years of experience giving us the really the big picture of what this book is all about.
Laying the foundation for the rest of the book, right?
Absolutely. We're gonna. It was difficult for us to not go too far in depth, but we know we have so many other topics to go into, and we'll in future videos be more focused in on those things as well. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bill. Thank you all for listening to us.